So Demon Slayer Season 3, or the Swordsmith Village arc, which was nearly an hour long, hour if you include commercials, but 50 minutes of Demon Slayer greatness, and it was a very enjoyable first episode. Not gonna lie, it threw me for a loop. I mean, initially when the demons are meeting, there's like about 20 minutes of this episode is just focused on Muzan and all of the characters. I mean, there is a character who is the first ranked, so upper one, and they're like avoiding showing his face the whole time. I'm looking at the back, I'm looking at the side, I'm like, damn, that kind of looks like Tanjiro's father's hair if memory serves. I couldn't tell if I was remembering correctly or not, because I watched Demon Slayer when it comes out, and by the time they reveal the face, I'm like, damn, that's a creepy ass character, like 6 eyes, okay, definitely not Tanjiro's father. I mean, how could it be? I mean, we know he's dead, but you never know with anime, it goes weird sometimes. And then we end up with this like a dream sequence because our boy Tanjiro ends up in a coma for 2 months. We see that same man, seemingly, at first, I mean, is this him before he turns into a demon? Is this sibling? I don't know. I'm like, is this Tanjiro? Is this his father? I'm like, wait, if this is Tanjiro and this is his dream, why does it look like Nezuko is his wife? I'm like, there's just a lot of things happening. And then by the end, they show us literally a man who looks identical to the demon. I'm going to assume that's a sibling or a relative of some sort. I would find it hard to imagine Upper Demon 1 would be able to blend into human society that well. I just feel like given the safety measures, they would be able to smell an imposter. So I have to imagine that this has to be a sibling, or at the very least, you know, if that ain't a sibling, I've never seen closer cousins than that. But either way, this episode was very, very fun to follow. Do have a full live reaction to this entire episode available on my Patreon, so if you want to see my full uncut thoughts, my theories that make no sense as I'm watching, you can head on over there because there's a boarding. I love Demon Slayer. I thought the previous arc, the Entertainment District, was fantastic. Mugen Train, fantastic. First season, fantastic. I expect greatness with this arc. I would imagine, given the fact that they're so secretive about this Swordsmith Village, which is where all the weapons for the Demon Slayers are seemingly made, they literally don't allow anyone to even breathe if they have a good sense of smell. Like, you have to wear nose plugs, you have to wear earplugs, you have to have a blindfold, you have to be carried just to get to this village. The fact that it's literally named after this village, I have to imagine the village is going to get invaded by demons at some point, which would make for a very interesting arc. But nonetheless, I mean, of all the ways that we could have went about the broken sword, so originally when he snapped his sword into two, he got quite the earful. This time, he only chipped it, so it should be a bit better. Turns out they don't even know where the sword is, so basically, Tanjiro was going to get killed. Turned out, nope, he has allies in this village because the person who made your sword, if it chipped or broke, it's not on you, my boy. They made a faulty sword, and I'm like, oh man, this man's gonna die. I do feel like Tanjiro is the type of character, though, that more or less, like, it is kind of his fault. I think he's just so extreme that no blacksmith really knows what they're getting into until they make him a sword and be like, how did you manage that? But I like the fact that they have this, like, secret village that they're so protective of. They hide their identity, so most likely, if they leave the village, they're not noticed, like, hey, I saw you, and then they start tailing them or something. No, they're very secretive, and it makes sense. If your primary group of people that make you the weapons that hunt these demons were to be discovered, that would be the #1 target. If you take care of the people who supply your enemy's weapons, then they won't have weapons to fight you with. It would just make the most sense. So they have like mountains covering them, a forest. It's obviously a very difficult location to discover. I would assume they've never been discovered, but if there's ever been a point where they could, this arc probably is it. But I like how they structured it. The first 20-ish minutes is more or less all about the demons. When one of the uppers is dead, obviously it's gonna have the tensions rather high. I mean, seriously, when you have 2 demons who are ranked, I think it's 2 and 3 overall in the hierarchy, and you have one just grabbing the shoulder, and you just get this murderous intent, at the very least, there was some politeness, like, take your hand off me. When that doesn't happen, literally a jaw gets ripped away, but hey, they're demons, they just regenerate it like that. But I mean, when I saw his head get cleanly cut in half, this is what I love about Demon Slayer. They play into the demon side of things so well, and it is frightening watching them interact. I mean, when you see, I think it was Upper 4 just cowering at a staircase, you're wondering, how does someone like that get ranked so highly if they're that cowering? But then I think about it, like, Muzan's a pretty scary character. I think anyone with any sort of brain still would probably be very frightened to ever be summoned, especially if one of your uppers were killed. And Muzan's just making his brew of coffee or doing his experimentations, and honestly, the fact that he doesn't even show his face and can send chills up your spine shows the type of aura that Michael Jackson in anime does have over people. Though I did love how Upper 2 was such a kiss ass and literally seems to have like no friends in that location whatsoever. But I'm excited. I think that's going to be a very fun character. I think maybe be one of the stars of this season, given just the personality seems so fun, but obviously is kind of a badass if he can get wounded that much and shake it off like you're just horsing around, as he says. The rest of the episode is kind of like cheerful fun and more or less character building, which makes sense. And I think that's why it works as like an hour-long special. Had the first half of this episode just been that as an episode, people would have left and been excited for more. But had we waited a week and come into just Tanjiro goofing off with everyone, while I like that content, I could see people maybe rolling their eyes a bit. But by combining it into one long episode, it honestly works quite well. New opening is absolutely fantastic, definitely teasing some big fights to come. And honestly, I like how they play with fan service and comedy in this show. Whether it's Inosuke waiting an entire day, as we learn if we watch after the credits with the little gag. They thought maybe an hour he was hanging on the ceiling. He wakes up 7 days prior to Tanjiro, and for a day he's calling out for him to wake up. Absolutely hilarious. Or when he gets to the hot springs, he's such a polite character. He's trying to cover her up because he's like, you're gonna pop out of your top if you're not careful. She doesn't even care. And by the end of their kind of like conversation over the course of that entire day, basically by the time she parts ways after giving him ASMR in his ear, he basically has the bloody nose and he's standing straight up, just completely flustered by basically potentially finding a weapon that could give him an advantage. I think this was a fantastic return to Demon Slayer. It basically hit everything you expect from Demon Slayer, minus maybe the craziest of action, just given that we came off of the craziest of action, but this season will pop off, I'm sure no different than the prior one. I think this was the perfect way to return to this world. I think the idea of the Swordsmith Village is very intriguing. I'm excited to see if they get invaded or if they're going to take the fight to these demons, but nonetheless, the fact that it took 113 years or something for one of the uppers to fall, and Muzan is looking at it as, you know what, it sucks it happens, I'm mad it happened, but the only reason is because this demon didn't work alone. Had he done so from the beginning, this never would have happened. If someone has confidence, it's Muzan. He literally feels like he's untouchable, and it will be interesting to see if this arc will be another step into showing that maybe Muzan needs to be a little more frightened than he currently is. But as it stands, I mean, most people are probably betting on the demons because, man, this dude has charisma, and honestly, he rules by fear, and that fear, you can understand where it comes from. But those are just my feelings. What did you think, whether you want to talk about the opening, the ending, the beginning, the end of the episode, or where you hope to see this season go? Because Demon Slayer, to me anyway, it started strong and it's never dipped. It has moments where it truly peaks, like Mugen Train or even the end of the prior season, right? But man, this show just doesn't dip in my opinion, and even the most simplistic moments are fantastic. Thoughts and feelings yourself down below. Drop a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here, ring that bell of course, and like I mentioned, we do have that full live reaction available on my Patreon. And while you're there, you can also get a video shoutout. So today we have Archer Kunha, Edrei Zahari, and Jeff. So I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care and have a good one.